we think it's brilliant, powerful. We know it's passionate. These are my girls. These women are everything, and they don't hold back, and that's why we love them. So this morning we welcome back Candace Kelley, Ameshia Cross, Brittney Cooper. Good morning to you, ladies.
Good morning.
Let's just start here, right? Good morning. The country is still mourning the death of General Colin Powell. But I want to talk about the woman behind the general that so many look to as a first and even a hero in some circles. Some say, hey, listen, hold up, because the black community had some other concerns. But for the most part, he was viewed as a man of integrity and a man who, as I said, was groundbreaking. But he was married to Alma Powell for nearly 60 years. A child advocate, an accomplished woman in her own right. She stood by General Powell through his career. Brittney, I want to start with you, though. Very strong woman to be in that hornet's nest in D.C. She, at one point, said, no, not only are you not going to run for president, if you do it anyway, because she was uncomfortable with it, I'm out. I'll leave you. And many people looked at her as this doting wife, but there was more to her, including someone behind the scenes who was saying, here's how it's going to go.
Absolutely. We all know that, great men are made in mostly because they have great women beside them and great women managing their lives. Colin Powell talked about his wife as his conscience in many ways, as the person who would tell him, you know what, that's not a good idea. And he said, usually she was right. And so absolutely, she challenged this man to put their family first and to recognize that there were real concerns about safety. And when in the 90s he was thinking about running for president, she said, look, there are some real safety concerns here. And we know that a decade later, when Barack Obama became the president, that death threats went up astronomically during his time in the White House. And so I think we have to give this sister lots of credit because she is a woman of a particular generation who really saw herself as one who took care of her husband, but who also knew that her ideas and thoughts about their family mattered. And to me, that also makes him more of an upstanding guy, a man who I disagree with politically, but who I have great respect for, because here was a man who had a, very sort of traditional Black family and who listened to his wife when she said, your political aspirations are not more important than our family. And what would it mean if we had men who, in our communities, who consistently were able to say, my career does not overrule the safety, the care, and the concern of my partner and my children.
Yeah, he respected her, but she demanded it. It seemed like she checked him. And so, Ameshia, I know you spoke eloquently, and thank you for that. She checked him about, the general right here on our air when we just learned that he was gone, that he left us. What about your experience with Alma? Did you see her up close and personal? Because this would not then come as a shock to you that there's this strong woman right by his side.
Absolutely, Sharon. And though Colin Powell was a general in the military, Alma was a general on the home front. And I think that we have to really remember that when we're talking about his history and his legacy. As somebody who conversed with Alma several times, one of the things that really stood out to me was the fact that she understood in many ways the assignment in a way that was very clear to her. She understood what being a military wife meant and everything that came along with that. She was a woman who, when she was pregnant with their first child, he was all fighting in Vietnam. She understood what she had to do on the home front, but she was also the voice of his consciousness. She was the voice that propelled him. She was the voice that ensured that on some of his darkest days and the days where he might have felt, lonely, like giving up, like war is a tough thing. And he wasn't somebody who really advocated or really enjoyed a lot of wars. And he was very vocal about that. But having a woman who understood not only how to, manage him in many ways, but also his aspirations, but also children, also acknowledging her own passions. When we talk about Alma, we have to realize that while many teenagers were thinking about prom and, dates and things, this is a woman who went to college at the age of 16. She was at the top of her class. She was at the top of her class in college. She did so much so early and was able to, in many ways, invoke a strength at a time where many women were set to the side or were just seen as an addition or an appendage to the man, decorative to a certain extent. She was making sure that she was calling the shots. And I think that that's something we have to remember her for.
Yeah, they were together for so long, Candace, and I wonder what your thoughts are on if she was able to. How much did he share with her, right? Because he had top security clearance. He had all of these things that, he had to hold in confidence. Did he, do you think, share with his spouse some of these things? And did she influence him? How does that kind of marriage work legally, even? Can it work that way?
Yeah, well, listen, when they say men and women get married, they become one, and they were the perfect example of this, that they became one in terms of their thoughts and how he carried out what he did on a day-to-day basis. So when he fell out of step with the GOP, or when he was, recanting his remarks about the weapons of mass destruction, to think that this was someone that was going back home each evening or when he was in her presence to say, what do you think about that? Because as was spoken, she was his conscience. She was the one who helped him make decisions. And that's what happens in a marriage. That's what happens when you have two people that in our loving relationship that understand what they want their lives to be like. And Colin Powell didn't put her on the back burner, didn't put her on the back burner when it came to his family, nor her health, her mental health specifically. Because when you think about the depression that she went through, we certainly know that that was a big thing for him to bring up, put in the forefront, this powerful man, to put out this idea that they have to deal with someone who has depressive episodes. A big deal in all communities, but especially in the Black community. This is someone who eventually sided with the Democrats, put everything behind Barack Obama. She was definitely a person behind the scenes who had to say yes to that or sign off to that in some capacity. And that's what we know about this strong woman and this strong family.
Yeah, and before we move on, Brittney, I want to ask you, because you said you respect him, but you didn't agree with his politics. And after he died suddenly and so unexpectedly, we heard more of this outpouring from very respected people within our community, diverse community, certainly not monolithic, who said, hold it now. He was the architect of a lot, and a lot of Black and brown people lost their lives as a result. We know about the failed intelligence and how he owned it, and I think that showed integrity. What should his legacy be? How should Black people remember him?
So I came up in an era when Black people never voted for the Republican Party in the modern era, not since the 1960s. I suspect that Colin Powell came of age in an era, and was from a family where Black people did vote for the Republican Party when they were more liberal. And I think that that's some of his trajectory. I think that his legacy is that he is a man of integrity. He absolutely was a major architect of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he absolutely allowed George W. Bush to go to war with faulty intelligence. But the difference is that after that happened, he cannot repent from or give justice to the many folks, the many casualties around the world that happened as a consequence of those wars. But he owned it. He said this was faulty intelligence. This was not a war that we should have fought. When Biden withdrew from Afghanistan, he said, we need to get out of Afghanistan. That is not a war that we can win. In this political moment where we have politicians on both sides who will never recant, who will never say, I was wrong, I got that wrong, we didn't do that correctly, it actually matters that he does that. Even though I am very far to the left of Colin Powell, I did have a chance to meet him when I was a college student at Howard University, and he served on our board of trustees. He was a lovely man. He was a kind soul. And I think that we got to be able to hold these kinds of things in tension, that we can critique people politically, that we can drastically disagree with them, vehemently disagree with them, and still be proud of what they represent, still be proud of what it means to have Black people in these halls of power. And I also think that Colin Powell is more complicated than that, precisely because he does come out and back Barack Obama. He does vote for Joe Biden. And so I think that our communities, as you said, they're not monolithic. They are nuanced. I don't really get down with the social media thing where we sort of want to, lambast people and not give them any credit for being complicated, for not always making right decisions. And so I think that this man is worthy of having a complex legacy. But I also think that integrity is a word that attends to him and that he deserves that honor.
Yeah, he should be studied, by folks like you and discussed by all of us. Ameshia, she said the other day, he was Black Lives Matter before Black Lives Matter, but as you mentioned, complicated. I do want to move, though, to Dawn Staley. Okay, North Philadelphia's finest. I love Dawn Staley. Okay, she's a winner. She's a boss. She was an incredible baller. And now she's the highest paid Black woman in her sport. I think it's long overdue. It's being called a historic contract. More than $22 million is that magic number, where the Board of Trustees, South Carolina, said, yeah, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. And so, Candace, you first. It is historic. She played for Pat Summitt, one of the greatest coaches of all time. What does this mean for women, for parity, for sports? Is this the beginning or just an anomaly?
Listen, this is the beginning. This is the continuation, really, when you talk about her history, everything that you went over, all the way from, just recently being in Tokyo and winning in terms of the Olympics. This took a lot of negotiations. A lot of people, a lot of white people, Sharon, had to go behind her on that board of trustees to say, this is something that we want for this woman to have the biggest contract. This is a huge deal. And not only is it a huge deal for her, but it's a huge deal for anybody coming up to look at women's sports, to try to get some parity in payment, to try to get some equality in those who are even coaches who are out there in the league, and to get people to understand that if we invest in people and young people, as she has said, when we see a little Daron who's 5 years old and shows some skills in sports, we are investing in that young male. We need to do the same thing for young women as they come up, so that people won't come up and say, oh, they don't have the skills. These skills are boring. I don't want to watch that game. If we paid the same attention to these women, gave the same money, the same investment, the same advertisement, it will change this. It will change this. And this really is an advertisement for women's sports, for Black women, especially in sports. So this is a very big deal that will go a very long way. It's more than just about the contract.
Yeah, it is. And I want to challenge you and push back a little bit. And Ameshia, I'll start with you, but you can all fire away at me because I'm feeling some kind of way. Here she spends, 25 weeks during her tenure atop the poll, right? The AP says her team's the best. And there is no better coach right now, I don't think. And I think her record supports that. I want to take it outside of the Black woman conversation. She is going to be, I think, one day the next Pat Summitt. So it almost feels like when we say the highest paid Black woman, it may be true. And, I sleep Black. I am Black. I breathe Black. Everything Black. But at the end of the day, does it take away from her accomplishments when we say the first Black this, the Black that, and not just say, hey, look, this is a great coach that should be reckoned with? Ameshia?
I like that you brought that up, Sharon. It was exactly the lane that I was going to go in. At the end of the day, at some point, I think we need to all move beyond first Black, it's 2021, and just award our people for the achievements that they have. When we're talking about somebody like Dawn Staley, who has an amazing career, not only prior to her becoming a coach, but definitely during her coaching life at this point. And she's someone who wins and wins and wins again. She has proven herself and her weight in gold. So pay her what she is deserved. But I think that, to a point that was made earlier, this is an overall women's sports issue. Parity has always been a problem as it relates to women's sports. The WNBA is a huge violator. We've heard this from the commissioner of the WNBA, who says that this was a model that was designed basically for men, yet 80 to 90% of men get paid a whole lot more. We're seeing that on a regular basis. They are at a discount rate. They consider the WNBA a discounted type of basketball league, and they treat these women in that way. It's not just the coaches, it's also the players. We know that none of them get paid what they're worth. Again, I'm a native Chicagoan. Shout out to the Chicago Sky. But I do think that they too deserve a lot more than what they're getting. What we're seeing is that they just continue to get pushed to the side. And we've watched it time after time. And the claims that, okay, well, the NBA is watched more, that the stadiums are more full. I think that all of that is hogwash, quite frankly. We're watching time and time again the ratings go up for WNBA games. We're watching them get picked up more by a lot of the league and sports TV. We're watching a lot of the stadiums get full daily. I think that we're coming to a point where that argument is going to be dead in the water. It's abundantly paid them
and we're
what they
seeing
deserve.
men, and not that we need them, but we're seeing men support women too. Professor, we're out of time, but I gotta let you talk. I felt like your nose wrinkled a little bit when I said, it's not that I'm not proud, okay, that she's a black woman, but I did see your nose kind of wiggle a little bit, like you wanted to check me. Well, how do you feel about that? Should we continue to hold her up as this amazing black coach, or can I just say that she's the greatest?
Well, the question is, why we got to evacuate her blackness in order to say that she's great? Why can't it be both and? She is the first black woman to be paid in this way, right? And she is also going to explode things out of the water. Really, the issue is that when white people continue to dominate things, we don't continue to say, well, we still got this is a white coach. This is the first white coach. We always have to name it with black people, but we should name it. It's important. Her blackness matters in terms of the barriers that have made it possible for black women to get this kind of respect. She ain't the first black women's basketball coach, even of teams that have had great success. Let's remember that we have black colleges who've had black women coaches who have done a whole lot with a little bit. I love Dawn Staley because I grew up watching NCAA basketball. I'm from Louisiana Tech, Lady Texters country. They were great contenders with Pat Summit, Lady Vols in the 1990s. So I'm excited to see what this sister continues to do in the way she elevates the game. She's also politically connected to our communities and using that resource and that platform. She was a big supporter of Vice President Kamala Harris. So she is not just using this platform for her personal elevation. She's trying to change the conversation. And that means she's not putting her blackness to the side. She's asking us to bring it with her. And so I think I agree with my co-panelists that this is going to change conversations about the WNBA, about the NCAA, and her blackness matters as a lever for that power conversation.
I feel like I need to raise a fist in the air. And Candace, I know, and we're out of time. I'm gonna wrap with this. I know you and I talk offline probably more than anybody else, and you'd probably advise me to clarify my earlier statement. When I said I sleep black, ladies, I mean I dream in black. That's not. Let's not get it twisted. I'm apologizing. I'm a grown woman, but that's not what I meant. I meant, that I love being black, okay? And I'm not going to apologize for it. Okay, well, we will do this again and again and again. I love you all, and I love your strong opinions because that's what we're here for, to speak our minds. Thank you, ladies, for starting your day with me. We'll see you next week, same time, same place.